Today we are talking about pronoun agreement. If you remember last week, of course, we were talking about subject-verb agreement. And a lot of what we're going to see today is going to be similar and is going to build on what we learned last time. So last time, of course, we learned that subjects and verbs have to agree with each other. And to do that, you have singular subjects go with singular verbs, plural subjects going with plural verbs, and we learned a handful of rules for very specific instances of subject-verb agreement, and what counts as singular and what counts as plural. What also we should know is what pronouns are. Pronouns, of course, take the place of nouns, and they can either be singular or plural as well, but pronouns also can be masculine, feminine, or neutral when they are singular. So these are pronouns to make sure you know and know which category they fall into. We're also going to need to know what an antecedent is for today. You may have heard this term before, you may not. Regardless, an antecedent is the word that the pronoun is referring to. Oftentimes, that antecedent will occur earlier in a sentence or earlier in a passage than the pronoun itself, but that is not always the case, just most of the time. Let's look at an example so you can see what we're talking about here. Laura sold her sister to buy inline skates. Let me tell you, Laura got a very good price for her sister. But the pronoun we see is her. And that her is referencing Laura. So Laura is our antecedent in this instance. So we know pronouns, we know antecedents. Now we're going to learn 3 rules for pronoun agreement. And the first one is the general rule. A pronoun must agree with its antecedent. It must agree in number, must agree in temperament, must agree in all facets. For example, the lizard licked its eyeball. Because lizard is a singular antecedent, it is the plural pronoun that you must use to replace it. Another example, the lizards licked their eyeballs. There are multiple lizards, therefore we need to use a plural pronoun. Rule number 1 is very straightforward. Rule number 2, part 1. The conjunction and can cause problems with pronoun agreement. 2 or more singular things joined by and become a plural antecedent. That is rule 2, part 1. The new puppy and kitten have destroyed their owner's sofas. Even though we have a puppy, which is singular, and kitten, which is singular, and throwing in there requires us to use a plural antecedent. We've seen this exact same rule with subject-verb agreement. Same thing works with pronouns. Rule 2, part 2. When each or every precedes 2 or more singular things joined by and, a singular antecedent is formed. Each new puppy and kitten destroy its owner's sofa. This is nearly the same sentence. The difference is each. Each makes the entire sentence singular. And you need to make sure you're aware of that. So, think of it like this. No matter how many singular nouns you have, if you are using each or every, it's going to be singular. Each new puppy, kitten, rabbit, tarantula, python, parrot, iguana, and ferret destroys its owner's sofa. Spiders. Bunny, snake, iguana, ferret. I don't know what sound a ferret makes. Anyway, indefinite pronouns cause the biggest headaches with regards to pronoun agreement. And we looked at them last week a little bit. We're going to look at indefinite pronouns more this time. So rule 3, part 1, is these indefinite pronouns are always singular. Each. We've seen that one before, yeah? Literally, like 30 seconds ago. These are always going to be singular, even if you have lots of objects that they are referring to. If you see one of these indefinite pronouns, you need to use a singular. So, think of it like this. Everyone on Earth. That equals more than one person. Currently, there are 7,193,000. Oh, geez, this is why I teach English. 7,193,000,000 125,635 people. Everyone, however, is still singular. So you would use it as a singular pronoun for agreement. For instance, everyone on earth drinks her water from freshwater lakes. Right? We have singular, everyone, so we need to use a singular pronoun. Now, why did I choose her? This, we need to take a little walk through history. In the 1950s, rule books would recommend using the masculine pronoun exclusively. For example, back then we would say things such as, "Oh my, the student didn't do his homework. What a nosebleed!" Ah. Right? But about the 1970s, criticism from feminists and civil rights activists, rulebook suggested using both genders so that males and females had equal representation. So that sounded like this: the student didn't do his or her homework. Right? So using his or her, now we have that singular pronoun. The problem with this is sometimes that can get a little cumbersome. If a student wants to improve his or her grades, he or she should walk him or herself over to the tutoring center. There he or she can request a tutor to help him or her with his or her homework. This preparation for his or her classes will ensure that he or she is ready when taking his or her quizzes and exams. In addition, the tutor might have old work to show. The way the student can find him or herself out is expected, blah, blah, blah. Him or her is everywhere, and it's very cumbersome, very difficult to read. So today, what we try to do, we try to fix the error without the annoying repetition. So we can say some students didn't do their homework. We can make it plural because there are no gender instances in plural. Or we can be specific with it. Lisa didn't do her homework. Frank didn't do his homework. So being plural to try to eliminate those issues or being specific will hopefully solve those problems. And that's one of the things we're looking to do. So, Rule 3, Part 2. Some indefinite pronouns are singular and some are plural depending on the context. We touched on this last week, but I want to make sure to do it again. Here they are: all, any, none, more, most, some. These are switch hitters, so to speak. For instance, all of Beverly's hair gets its color from a bottle. Hair, we have to look at this time, and that's singular. All of Beverly's fingernails get their color from a bottle. Fingernails, there are multiple fingernails. They need to be plural. Alright? We're going to do a quick test. We've got about 6 questions here. Those are the rules. Those are the basic rules. There's obviously some more specific instances, but if you know those rules regarding pronoun agreement, you're going to be okay. So let's check and see how we do. Directions. Find and fix the errors. At the zoo, every lion, tiger, leopard, bear, snake, and crocodile roared their approval when the mean child slipped in a puddle and cracked his head on the sidewalk. Where is the pronoun error? There. We should not use there. Why? Because every is there, and regardless of how many items are listed, every is always going to be singular, so we need to use singular in that instance. Another example: each of those worried students is wondering how to cheat effectively on their pronoun agreement quiz. Same instance as last time. Each is always going to be singular, so we need to use his or her. But to avoid potentially his or her, we could try this. Those worried students are wondering how to cheat on their pronoun agreement test. Now, with the pronoun, we've created a plural antecedent with students instead of each, and that allows us to use a plural. Number 3, both Miss Horrigan and her students are happy to hear they can order squid eyeball stew for their lunch. Where is the error here? There is no error here. This one was correct as written. Nice job, Miss Horrigan. Number 4, not only my 2 dogs, but also Buster the cat loves to eat pepperoni that I pull off my pizza to give to them. This one's a little bit tricky. See if you can find it. Find the error. So in this instance, we didn't talk about this rule this time, but we talked about it with subject-verb agreement. Them is not correct in this instance. We need to use him in reference to Buster the cat. Why? Because the closer of the two antecedents counts. Not only Buster the cat, but also my two dogs love to eat pepperoni pizza or pepperoni that I pull off my pizza to give to them. So remember, with this setup of a sentence, it's whichever one is closer. And it's also better to put the plural one second, as we did in this example down here. Question number 5. Oh no, someone left their greasy french fries on the essay that I have to turn into Mrs. Neal next hour. Bummer! What's the error? Their greasy french fries. Why? We need to use his or her, of course, because someone is the antecedent and someone is singular. And again, we can try to change the someone left greasy french fries on the paper that I have to turn into Mrs. Neal next hour. That's fine. We're assuming they were his or her greasy french fries, so we can just kind of eliminate that in this instance. All right, question number 6. Nick loves Cluck-a-Buck, but they use so much MSG as flavoring that he sneezes for an hour after eating just a drumstick. Where's the pronoun? That's always a way, if you know I'm looking for pronoun errors, find the pronoun and see what it references. The pronoun is they, and that's not going to work for us. It uses, because Cluck-a-Buck, corporations, school, Warren Township High School, for instance, they count as singular. So that's something to be mindful of moving forward. Number 7, none of Sabrina's friends will give up one of his or her pencils, so that Sabrina, who is always unprepared, can take her pronoun agreement quiz today. Where is the pronoun? His or her. What is his or her referencing? None. Is none singular or plural, or is it a switch hitter? And if it's a switch hitter, is it referring to something that's singular or plural? So, we can't use his or her, we have to use their, because none is referring to friends, multiple of Sabrina's friends. So that's why we need to use a plural pronoun. Either of those two shirts will enhance the brown colors of with their vibrant eyes. Let me try reading that one again. Either of these two shirts will enhance your brown eyes with their vibrant colors. Well, this one's really kind of tricky, isn't it? There we want to get rid of. And we want to go its, because its is referring to either, which is always singular, even though we're talking about shirts. Or you can try this. Both of those shirts will enhance your brown eyes with their vibrant colors. Make things a little bit easier to follow if you were to switch that around a little bit. All right, for homework, I want you to write 3 sentences. We learned 3 rules. I want you to write 3 sentences that have errors in pronoun agreement. And below those sentences, I want you to write the correction. So you're going to do it incorrectly and correctly to make sure you understand these concepts. Have a wonderful evening, afternoon, morning, depending on when you've watched this.